Well, good morning, everybody. Hope you all doing well today. We got a pretty potent mid-level feature moving through the flow, and we're going to focus on this with severe weather discussion, talk about excessive rainfall, and also go over the future long-range forecast. Severe weather looks possible here along the Gulf Coast this morning, and in parts to the north, points to the north here, as this moves through. Right now, just mostly heavy rainfall. And as this mid-level feature moves through later today, we could get some small hail. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Excuse me. Um, anyway, welcome to my channel. I appreciate y'all watching. Like my video if you like it. Subscribe. Put some any comments you have in the comments below. So let's get started here. As far as severe weather for our local area here, I'm going to talk about this in my forecast today, but overall, low risk for our local area here. I think biggest risk is maybe some marginal severe wind gusts and some small hail later on today. Further to the south, more likely to be um, tornado risk, right? Although still not that bullish on the tornado risk. So large hail, not a big risk here. The greatest risk between 2 and 7 this afternoon. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, based on what I'm seeing right now. Damaging winds, the biggest threat, maybe tornadoes, brief spin-off tornado within the lines that come through here. But like I said, southern Georgia and northern Florida are the biggest risk today. Rainfall chances, 100% today. So throughout the whole state, with cooler temps up to the north here, when warmer temps to the south, 60s and 70s, and you see the delineation of colder air. So severe weather is not expected, especially further to the north here. So moving on to tonight, generally is in the 40s to low 50s. Rain chances exiting the area as we go through the evening. And tomorrow, going to be pretty nice out there in the 60s, and with no precipitation expected tomorrow. Well, so let's start this off, excuse me, by going over the severe threat today. This is the current radar. You see a very potent, a somewhat potent, I guess, mid-level low moving through the Mississippi Valley this morning with moisture streaming to the north here. Heavy rainfall up to the north as well. Right. Let me take the hazards off of here right now. Okay. And so the focus of this discussion is just going to be on the severe weather, right? So let's take the radar off. We have a slight risk of storms here, severe weather, generally from Pensacola to Cordele, all the way down to Jacksonville, into parts right along the Palm Coast here, Cedar Key, the Panhandle of Florida, right? The larger marginal risk surrounding it, generally from Mobile, Alabama, to Selma, up to LaGrange, just north of Macon here, to Augusta, parts of South Carolina, and down towards Savannah, and points southward here also are at a marginal risk. And so that's the overall risk. General thunderstorms possible in the rest of this area today. So tornado threat. The highest tornado threat, according to the SPC, is in this brown area here, 5%, surrounded by 2% risk in the large area we just outlined, right? Although based on what I'm seeing so far, I think either we're going to have the wind threat is the most prevalent threat further to the north here, but we'll see, right? Wind, you see the slight risk is driven by the wind risk here, okay? So the highest risk of winds exceeding 50 knots within 25 miles of a point is in the yellow area here, and then a 5% risk further to the north. All right, hail risk a little bit further to the south here in that 5% hail risk area, where the best dynamics will be in lift, but I want to rule out some hail in low points further to the north as the 500 millibar, the mid-level low moves through today. So going back to the radar, we have something ahead of this mid-level flow here. It's enhancing the precip, excuse me, right now, and that's going to move through middle Georgia this morning with some lift associated with it down on the south end of this. And if we bring up the radar here, let's bring up the radar real closely to it. All right, and so storms moving to the west of it and to the east here, moving to the north-northeast right now. Mostly stratiform, looks like precipitation here with some embedded, maybe some embedded heavier rain moving to the north. Will impact our area shortly, and it may come through before I even get a chance to post this. So, yeah. So, okay. So on to the analysis here. So this is HRRR, the latest model run, 10Z. All right, we have another. They run every hour, right, and they're 18 hours out. So showing the ongoing precip pretty well here, right, and what we anticipate go through time. That precip shield will move to the north here. A line of storms will move to the east here, with the possibility of severe weather where these the deeper colors are here. Although I don't really see a lot of rotating updrafts with this, although embedded in a line here, you can see some potential for severe weather, right? And you had the mid-level feature moving through later in the afternoon, right? This is 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Eastern, with potential for some small hail as we get some colder air aloft moving through, right? So generally right now we got that first push of rain, and then around 10 or 11, we're going to have another push through with potential for severe weather. So, and that clears out some, and then around 5 or 6 p.m., we potentially get some more enhanced upper level forced precip, maybe some small hail and lightning moving through. So, and that's like I said, around 8 p.m. this evening. One parameter we look at with this stuff, right, is a 0 to 3 kilometer cape, which gives us a good indication at the surface what the instability is here. And when we get three cape approaching these values, 160 joules per kilogram, that tells us that we have a lot of energy in the low levels of the atmosphere. If we go back to this, let's see, this is 21Z. Yeah, that's likely as a result of the upper level feature moving through. So that's after we get that initial push, right? So we have this initial push here, then we get this enhancement uh, as an upper level feature moves through, right? And moves to the northeast. And you have this enhancement as well down here to the south, right? So you see initially the highest 3 cape values are down here. So, and that's most likely why we have the severe threat is the highest, I think, into parts of the panhandle here. So another thing we look at in severe weather setups is the lapse rates at the lowest levels, right? And you see the lapse rates are pretty paltry here. Anything over 6C per kilometer um, is is conducive for severe weather. Anything below that, you have less likelihood, right? Because the lapse rates are pretty poor, right? And we both go through 3 p.m. here. Let's go back to 2100 with this. And we go back to when the lapse rates are the highest, right? Yeah, so for central Georgia especially and pulling south, the lapse rates are the highest, and the surface-based cape is the highest as the upper level feature moves through, which um, let me switch to that real quick. So here's your 500 millibar low, mid-level low moving through, right? And you can see where the why the enhancement here, right? Because the this 500 millibar low is moving right through this area. Although it's filling and weakening with time, before it does that, it moves through, right? So bringing colder temps aloft. If we switch to 700 millibars real quickly here, you see right before it moves through, you have some pretty strong low-level winds as well. Go to 850, which is close to the surface. Ahead of that, you also have some enhancement of the winds there also. So that's one of the drivers as that mid-level feature moves through. You see the temperatures here at 700 millibars. They cool quite significantly as this mid-level feature moves through, which even though the wind profile is from the west, you have the cooling aloft, and that typically can lead to you know, can enhance some convection in this area, forcing, right? You look at the sounding here. Not a lot to look at here, but you know, it may not pick this up very well. But let's go back to this here. Yeah, so this is the radar, you know, when you get this far out. So you see what I'm talking about here. So what do I think about tornado risk here? So let's talk about that real quick. So one of the things we're going to look at here is surface-based CAPE and the photographs here in advance of this system moving through. Photographs look quite favorable, but not a lot of instability at the surface here. And when that does increase in middle Georgia and points north, that's because the mid-level feature moves through. So honestly, I'm not that bullish on a tornado threat. So because I mean the surface-based instability is pretty much lacking here. So let's look at a few other parameters here. Some things we look at too is updraft velocity here, right? And 0 to 3 kilometer updraft velocity. You know, they have some swaths here into southern Georgia, into the panhandle of Florida, which is where the highest risk is, right? And maybe into central Florida here, into North Carolina, maybe into central Georgia, but not that impressive, right? So let's move to 2 to 5 kilometer updraft velocity, a little bit higher in the atmosphere. Yeah, not that impressive either. Another parameter you look at is energy helicity index. This is 0 to 1 kilometer, and you see the values approaching anything greater than 0.5 or less than 0.5 and up and higher can signal the potential for tornadic storms. And we have a broad area here in the panhandle, right? And that moves to the north, and then not a lot after that. So there's some areas of it, but yeah, I mean the possibility is there, but I wouldn't say pretty small area here. And I would say this is the last parameter I'm going to look at, the 0 to 3 kilometer energy helicity index. When you have these parameters this high, that tells me, like in this area, the potential exists for tornadic storms, right? You have enough instability, and you have enough spin in the atmosphere, right? So I think the highest area for the highest threat would be generally in this area here as we go through the day today. This is at 1 p.m. So that's my thoughts on this severe weather threat. I hope you all get something out of this, and I'm going to include this as part of my regular forecast, but I want to put this out there before everything else. So with the 15-day outlook on temperatures here, we've seen this dip in temperatures through the end of the next weekend below normal temps here. Chilly, 50s for highs, 40s and 30s for lows, but warming up quite quickly here. Looks like a cold front of passage here, but before that, reaching almost 80 degrees here next weekend, cooling off and then warming up again. So the roller coaster is part of living in the South this time of year. We get cold fronts and then it warms up pretty quickly. So not unexpected here. So here's your excessive rainfall outlook for today. Generally a large swath of marginal risk here. Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, and the California coastline. The threat shifts further to the west here, out in the California, Los Angeles area, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, San Jose, San Diego. Right along the coast, you have a slight risk to a marginal risk a little further inland into the north here. That threat moves further to the south here into a marginal risk, San Diego, Los Angeles area still. And for day 4, we have nothing on the map. And day 5, we don't have anything either. But I have a feeling in the longer term, we're going to have more of these outlooks that talk about flood potential here out west. So when we look at day 3 to 7 U.S. hazards, this is next week, the 17th through the 21st. Heavy snow in the Sierra Nevada, heavy precip possible along the California coast on the 17th, which is Monday, right? And high winds expected Intermountain West into the highest terrain of the Rockies here, and also in the on the Front Range of the critical wildfire risk. And I guess I should talk about this some more. I'll look into a little bit more and do a little bit segment on that. Heavy snow potential exists up here in the northern part of this, the country here, the 17th to the 18th as well. Well, when we look data, age of 14 hazards, we know out west we're going to have the continuing onshore flow here, especially towards the end of the month, it looks like here, especially in the northern part, northwestern part of the country, and even points further south. And this is towards the end of the month here, pretty far out to be forecasting this. So this is 10 days from now. So 25th to the 28th, highlighting this area for excessive rainfall or heavy rain. This could probably shift, but boundaries setting up in these areas. We get this time of year um, training of storms and heavy rain. As far as the risk for heavy snow for the extended 8 to 14 days, slight risk all along the to moderate risk in the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades, and the northern Intermountain West area. I got to remember what to call this area to the north here. It's the mountainous terrain of Montana, Idaho, but I know it's called something specific, and I'll figure that out. Excuse me. Got some my Starbucks coffee. I'm trying to power through this today. And also a slight risk of heavy snow the 25th to the 8th in the upper Midwest and parts of the northern high plains. The wind risk during this period looks to continue with a moderate risk of high winds right along the coast and further to the east here, which, this system, the systems out to the west here will be incessant moving onshore and bringing different systems and heavy rain and snow and high winds. So not unexpected here. And right along the southern portion of Alaska also here. So hazardous temperatures are only expected in Alaska during this period. So southern Alaska into central Alaska the 28th through the 22nd through the 28th, with a larger risk into central Alaska here, encompassing that whole area, right? So cold temperatures continue here for Alaska during this period. So this is an interesting website, forecast records, showing where the tie breaker near here, right? So forecast highs in the northern part of the country today could break some records, 50s and 60s, which is pretty warm for up there. And for tomorrow, 50s, 60s, and 70s for the central U.S., and then moves further south for highs 70s and near 90 in central Texas. And the 18th, moving further to the east here, 70s and 80s and 60s up in the Midwest. Records, wow, could be 96 down in southern Texas. Wow, it's gonna be hot. Even along the Gulf Coast, predicted to be in the 80s. And the 20th for Friday, still near 80 degrees. So it could be record temperatures here. For Macon, 1892, it would break a record. Was 80 degrees. Mobile, Alabama. So going back to the 19th, the record was 97 for far southern Texas at this the 19th, right? So high minimums. You wouldn't think these are records, but usually it's below freezing in these areas this time of year. So yeah, near records, and see even warmer here on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Look how warm it is. Um, Interesting that up in New York, again, I had a high minimum record here, near in the 60s and 50s in parts of Georgia, North Carolina, and Alabama for high minimums. Coldest temps, looks like some records might be set out west here in California, right? If we go through this period, but overall, not too impactful, but um, lows in the 50s, I guess, are pretty chilly for out there this time of year. So one of the bigger threats today also is heavy rainfall, right? So heaviest rainfall, of course, will be along in front of this as this line moves through, right? But the precip is the heaviest, focused in the Mississippi Valley, Tennessee Valley, and points northward here. And then see these storms moving through with the HRR, right? So latest run. Let's see if we have a more recent run here. Yeah, we do. All right, so it doesn't go that far out. So let's go back one run. This is a 15-minute run. Okay, so highest rainfall rates, heavy rain occurring here in parts of Tennessee, northern Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And the northern edge of this, we get some snowfall here, right? And so we've been talking about this for quite some time. A swath of potentially heavy snow right along this boundary here. And if we go to the northeast, we can see that boundary setting up here, right? Um, and the National Weather Service in New York City put out a briefing on this, and this is it here. So I hope you can read this. It's not really that big enough, I don't think, but see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. Move this out of the way. So 1 to 2 inches of snow here, generally in this area. I'm going to bring up another graphic for some other National Weather Service areas, but there's no advisories in effect for this right now, although there's still uncertainty exactly where this is going to go, but there's more agreement at this point. As far as precipitation, we talked about that. The highest amounts are going to be in parts of Tennessee, North Georgia, parts of eastern Alabama, southern Georgia. Depending on where you're at here, these swaths, wherever they set up, training of storms could lead to up 1 or 2 inches of rainfall here. So they move through time. You see the higher amounts are in parts of South Carolina and North Carolina here, and just offshore. So not expecting flooding necessarily here, but you could have some flash flooding if the downpours are strong enough and overwhelm the drainage, right, in a short period. We'll look at the 6 to 10, the 14-day temperature outlook. Looking to be above normal for a good portion of the eastern U.S., with the exception of northeast and, of course, to the west of the Rockies here and parts of the northern high plains, Alaska, a lot of certainty here of below normal temps, with above to below in the Aleutian Island chain and above in the Hawaiian Islands. Then going a little further out, the 22nd through the 28th, looking to be near normal still on the eastern seaboard, right? If you go back, we're still maintaining that. Not too hot or too cold here, which has been the trend all year. Above normal for the rest of the area. We should build a ridge, building back to the west slightly here. Below normal temps expected along the west coast here, into the northern high plains, Alaska, near normal to above in Aleutian Island chain and above in the Hawaiian Island chain also. As far as 6 to 10 and 6 to 14 day precip, right? The desert Southwest below normal, above normal for a good portion of the rest of the U.S. with the eastern U.S. being near normal here. Near normal in northern Alaska, below normal in southern Alaska here, with above to near normal to below, depending where you're at in the Aleutian Island chain. I don't know if anybody that watches this lives there, but anyway, above in the Hawaiian Islands here. And then we get a little further out, good portion of the nation above, normal chances of precip, with below in the desert Southwest still. And the Alaska is still split here, with below to near normal in the Aleutian Islands and above in the Hawaiian Islands. It seems like the Hawaiian Islands have been above the whole time I've been talking about this. So, yeah, excuse me, sinuses are bothering me today. So, all right. So, what does the future hold for continental U.S.? What I'm going to do is compare the GFS and European model here, right? This is starting off the GFS Monday. We got intensifying low pressure just offshore here. Going to GFS, this is 12Z on the 14th, but let's move this back a little bit. Whoops. But still roughly the same scenario, right? Not quite as intense, but you see that moving off, right? Moves out to sea. Low pressure moving on shore here. Heavy rainfall, snow out west. Heavy rainfall and snow along the west coast continues. This low pressure moves to the north here. Backside snow, Intermountain West. Backside snow all the way up into Canada, northern high plains. Get some freezing precip here, and you get a pretty potent overrunning event here, and as we get into Wednesday, with maybe some freezing rain, but high pressure to the north is really preventing this from moving that far north, right? Because you see that 540 line here, wherever this freezing line sets up, you know, that's kind of a good rule of thumb, like rough estimate where your freezing precip will be, although it's not. It's just a broad look at it, right? So, which has been the trend this year, has been cold, like or near normal, with unsettled weather here in the Northeast. So, another low pressure develop east of the Rockies. Get further out, this is the 20th, which is 5 days from now. Moves a little further to the east, deepens as it moves to the northeast. And this is an inland cutter, and then it develops, it shifts offshore. You see that? So you have another system following behind it, southern stream energy here. You see that here? Moves through, moves offshore. Then the GFS wants to develop low pressure pretty far to the south here, with this low pressure, this high pressure diving, with maybe a ridge building out west here for a little while. This high pressure diving southward here. Deep trough. Digging. Yikes. Look at this run here. Well, this is the 23rd, which is 8 days from now. Looks like a CAD type event. So let's focus in on this real quick. And this has happened several times this year. We've had a setup similar to this, where you got a trough digging out west. It depends how deep it is, right? And if we switch to the upper levels, we can see that relative vorticity of this will load. All right, it's loading, right? Kind of a similar solution to what we had before. You got southern stream energy here, northern stream energy here, right? They don't really phase. Um, Maybe once it gets offshore, but it looks eerily similar to what we got going on right now. Um, but colder air is diving further to the south here. So we look at temperatures, 850 millibars. Cold air is present to the north of this, right? You see the cold air, 850 millibars is here, right? So a lot to be worked out with this, but this is like 8 days from now. So it's worth talking about. So let's switch to the European real quick, and we'll go over that as well. So this is the 0Z European model. We got our system moving through the southeast and offshore the um, east coast. System moving through we got this unsettled weather along the west coast, Intermountain West here. Low pressure. It has the low pressure moves much further to the west here. The European does, with less overrunning and not quite as cold here. So wherever this sets up, we'll have to look at this and get a closer look as we go through time. But overrunning events can be notoriously hard to predict. Low pressure moves right along that boundary, okay, and moves out to sea, right? Another low pressure develops along the east side of the Rockies, moves to the north here, right? And it's a quite a bit different solution than the GFS at this point. GFS has a low development off the coast here, right? It does eventually shift the energy offshore here, right? It's 21st. And then it has somewhat similar solution, but more progressive with energy in the southern stream, but not nearly as deep, high pressure. And so we're going to look at the upper levels here at the vorticity, see what the European shows or the United States. This is the 21st. Trough diving now, but not nearly as deep, right? Mid-level feature up here, mid-level feature up here. Kind of a broad trough instead of two separate entities here. Once to phase it as you get towards the end of this period, right? Go back to the surface. Doesn't quite dig enough to make it up to the northeast here, but a lot to work out with this still. When we get past this to the extended, unsettled weather returns to the northwest coast to end this run at 240 hours, 10 days from now. So very unsettled out west and in the northeast, and potentially some systems pushing down into the south in the long term. And they did highlight this area for heavy rainfall here. If you switch between the European and GFS, GFS kind of shows a similar thing with some heavy rainfall here, right? Let's go back to the 6C. This is a 6C run, so it's a little bit, it's run already. It's much further south of this trough. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But overall, a pretty progressive pattern, with the exception of up here to the north, where we could have an extended icing event once this plays out. That's all I got for today, guys. I appreciate y'all watching, and you know, I'm gonna go over. Of course, I'm gonna provide this forecast every day, and I hope y'all enjoy it, and hope y'all have a good Sunday, and God bless.